people recognize Greg in the airport now.
Like, yeah, in Washington, D.C. airport, like people ask to come up, take a picture. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then they go, we saw you in this film, best day ever. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this is happening.
And that happened to Allie, and that happened to me on the ski slopes.
Welcome to Trail Effect. I am your host, Josh Blum. Trail Effect is a show that dives into the stories behind trails, the communities that embrace trails, and the people who rely on trails as a way of life. The goal of this show is to turn the stories you will hear from our guests into useful knowledge that can be applied to your community while providing some entertaining and inspirational content. Guests on Trail Effect include trail builders, board members, community leaders, volunteers, and regular people who really enjoy trails. For episode 210, we've got Berne Broudy and Greg Durso back on for a follow-up conversation about their film, Best Day Ever. Berne and Greg were first on episode 201 back in October of 2025. Since then, they have been rallying hard on the film tour circuit, racking up an impressive 22 awards and showcasing the film in multiple countries. Best Day Ever has been making a real impact on how everyday people think about adaptive trails and trails for all. This is a special episode and one worth sharing. If you have not had a chance to check this film out, it is impressive and will take you through the full roller coaster of emotions. Cattle Mountain Apparel, the brand that was built by travelers, hikers, trail runners, and mountain bikers, with the motto of venture far, laugh hard. While I definitely use Cattle Mountain Apparel for mountain biking, Cattle Mountain is also my go-to choice for daily wear as it is super functional and comfortable. Cattle Mountain Apparel also offers a lifetime gear repair program with the goal of extending the life of their products while reducing waste in the process. If you ever damage any of your apparel, Cattle Mountain will repair it for free for life. By using the affiliate link found in the show notes or on the Trail Effect website, a small commission will come back to the Trail Effect podcast, which helps to cover the cost of expenses for keeping this show going. Now on to the Trail Effect with Berne and Greg. Here we are today on Trail Effect. We are following up with Berne Broudy and Greg Durso about the Best Day Ever film, which is a super powerful film that we first talked about back in October of 2025, and we're now in April of 2026, and they've gone on a full-on tour in person, and there's more touring happening, and so we were going to catch back up with how that reception has been. So how's it going today, Greg?
It's going good. I can't believe that was October. That doesn't. I feel like it's been so much has happened since then.
Yeah. Berne, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. And I agree with Greg. I can't believe that we haven't talked since October. It felt like last week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, with that, you've had the chance, I believe. So when we connected back in October, and at that point you had not gone on tour, the film, I believe, was just premiering at the Heartland Film Festival that week.
The film premiered at Heartland Film Festival. We went home with the Audience Choice Award, which we 100% did not expect. I think the next week we went to the Coast Film Festival in California. We went home with the Audience Choice Award. The next day we went to Banff Mountain Film, and we went home with the Audience Choice Award and the Best Mountain Sport Film Awards. I think, we may have been the only film that left Banff with 2 awards.
And apparently in the 49-year history of Banff, there was never a standing ovation for a film. And we allegedly, according to the people that run Banff Mountain Film Festival, we were the first ever standing ovation at Banff.
And we got 2.
Crazy.
We got 2 standing ovations.
Crazy.
And so now we're traveling with the Banff World Tour. We've been told that we're the top rated movie on the Banff World Tour by audiences globally, which is really cool. Something like 1,000 showings worldwide. And since we talked, the film has won probably 12 awards and has screened in Chile, Spain, Portugal, India, Macedonia, Poland, England, Canada, the US, and I'm sure I'm missing some other countries.
I actually counted 22 awards, the little symbols on your website right before we hopped on.
See, I lost track.
It's just been, it's been the coolest thing ever.
People recognize Greg in the airport now.
Like, yeah, in Washington, D.C. airport, like people ask to come up, take a picture. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then they go, we saw you in this film, best day ever. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this is happening.
And that happened to Allie, and that happened to me on the ski slopes. You know, people have come up to me and been like, "Are you Berne Broudy?" And I'm like, yeah, why would I do?" And yeah, it's been an amazing journey. And even more than the awards, like the thing that has meant the most to me is just the individuals who are impacting, who come up to us at literally every screening, and also the bigger public commitments that are being made. One example is we got a letter from the mayor of Grass Valley, California, who, after seeing Best Day Ever, committed to making approximately 45-mile trail they're building between Grass Valley and the Tahoe area adaptive optimized. And that the morning of the film, they told me they couldn't do it. By the night, they were like, we're in.
Yeah, I got a lot of places we could go with that, but I can tell you firsthand that I work in the trail planning and design world professionally, and I would love if every single person that I work with and every person that we encounter at, say, the kickoff of a trail project, it literally has to screen your movie to get a better understanding of the power behind this.
We would love that. And we're also working to get it into high school and college high school and college curriculums. We're working to get in front of 15,000 physical therapists at their annual conference. We're working at having it be part of what someone with a new spinal cord injury experiences when they're first injured, and kind of as they're learning about how to work with their new body.
That's incredible. Let's rewind back to October, before y'all took off, and then fast forward to now, and talk about some of the more details of what you've actually learned and experienced in the theaters. I know I'll probably talk about this in a little bit, but I got to pre-screen it, obviously, because you guys let me pre-screen it, and it provided a lot of context for the previous conversation we had. But I never had the opportunity to screen it in an audience setting until last Friday. And for me, that was super powerful. But let's talk about like really how the emotions have gone, what like a lot of the details that have come out of it, and like how you really felt, because it's powerful, but probably more than what you thought was coming.
Yeah, at least on my end, I never especially when it's about like kind of your life, it's hard to be like, is someone going to find this interesting, right? Like, is someone going to be like relate to that? So I think for me, it was like just really cool to see the reactions that like people really stuck with this. And I think like, that was great, but also like just the different kind of people in the audience, right? There's people from all different backgrounds and athletes, and it's resonating with everyone in different ways. And so to kind of feel that first kind of like people clapping and like cheering and having that, and like just seeing the reception, it's just so crazy to have that. And I think for me, like two things stuck out, especially like I went to England and I saw like we filmed it there. We went to Bilbao, Spain, and when you're in another country, literally, and people, it's resonating with them the same way it is here. And community is community. And so it's really awesome to see how they want to do that everywhere. It's on an international level. It's not just something that, we did in Vermont and it was so cool and want to get out there, but just seeing how it's resonated like internationally, not just nationally, internationally is just beyond my wildest dreams. And I'm just so thankful that like people are having that reaction, because this work is so important.
It's such a cool experience to be sitting in the theater with people and just hearing them laugh, hearing them cry, hearing them laugh, hearing them cry, because that's what we were striving for. And also to, as Greg said, like be standing in Bilbao, Spain, and listening to people coming out of the theater being like, do we have adaptive bikes here? Do we have adaptive trails here? How do we do this here? And seriously not knowing, but so many people are actually taking initiative in their communities. So someone will see it at a film festival and then they'll reach out to us and say, can the public land managers in my town watch this? We're talking about screening at the Vermont State Legislature. It just screened for Boulder Open Space. It's, got 3 screenings in Washington State. It's just bike clubs are seeing the potential with influencing the land managers and the decision makers in their areas. Someone just reached out to me today and was like, okay, we've seen the movie. Like, will you actually hop on a call and talk with the people in my town who make decisions around these parcels of lands so that we can better explain why this is so important.
I think that's like, I think it's like kind of always the dream, right? And so that stuff is happening. It's great. Like was just down in Moab, same thing. Like it was shown to the council folk. People are making decisions on land and like what that looks like. And you're talking about like an international destination, for outdoor recreation, right? And like to create more inclusive and normalization, for adaptive sports is massive. And it's just so cool that like people are on board with it and it's doing that. And it's humbling every single time, we get that reaction after. And I always just wish that like the rest of our community could just see that and feel that. Cause it's like, it never gets old and it'll always be like, it always stays with you. And every time I don't take it for granted each time that it happens. And I'm so thankful for it and humbled by it. And I just wish the rest of our community could share in on that, what that feeling feels like, because they deserve it.
Yeah. And speaking of the roller coaster of emotions, so the La Crosse Adventure Film Festival brought in the Banff World Tour, which is, I think they'd been applying to like try to bring the Banff World Tour in for the last 5 years at least, and kept getting denied, to be able to screen it here in La Crosse. And they finally they were able to screen it here just last Friday. And so I had reached out a couple days ahead of the screening to Keechan, who runs the La Crosse Adventure Film Festival, and said, hey, I know Best Day Ever is part of the Banff Film Festival. By chance, did you happen to select that? Because you don't watch every film, right? When it's a screening, like the people get to select what movies they want to screen in their town. Keechan was like, yeah, I was super pumped when I saw I could select the Best Day Ever so we could screen it here. And the movie was shown about halfway through the full screening of all the films, and there's an intermission right afterwards. And so, Keechan went up in front of everybody and just talked about how much of a roller coaster watching the film really was, because I got to witness it in person. You saw the laughing, you saw the crying, you heard the crying, you heard the inspiration, like all of it. And even locally, the questions have came up to me saying, how can we do this here? And so it's just a super powerful thing. And I'm so glad you're all able to capture this in the way you did, because it has turned out so good, because it honestly feels approachable.
And again, like, it's still like humbling to hear that, right? I think for me, every time we get that reaction, like, again, this is the work that we always that I like do every single day. And I think sometimes like you just like, you hope for impact, right? And it's like sometimes you can take a lens back to see it. And I think what I get so excited about is like it's cool to see like we are making an impact, right? And it is a big deal. And then it motivates you so much more than to continue to create and make that impact. So it's great to like have the proof, like have that proof and like know that you actually are like making a difference. And it just motivates you that much more to like, to keep doing that and hearing that. So just like, thank you.
Well, one of the things that I always try and remind people when we get the chance to do a Q&A after a screening, when we get to be there in person, is that like, there's nothing special about me. Like I didn't have any special skills. No one, gave me special permission to just decide to do something differently. Like I just happened to meet Greg and we started talking about it. And I was like, oh, let's try and do this thing differently. Like I'm the president of a trail club. So our next trail network, we're just going to do it differently. And we didn't know how to do it. And we just buckled down and we figured it out. We made plenty of mistakes. This year, we are really psyched to be rebuilding one of the most popular trails we built, which was also one of the first trails we built, because we know we can do it better. But literally anyone can just decide to build trails differently and go for it. Somebody asked me at a screening in California, what is the domino? Like, what is the domino that changes how we think about trails and who can access them? And my answer was somebody gives a shit. And that is literally it. It's just that someone is willing to invest a little extra time to think about or maybe learn how to do it and to make some mistakes it's not necessarily more expensive if you're building from scratch. It's not necessarily harder. It's just a little bit different. And you have to educate yourself on what those differences are. And just be prepared to make a few mistakes and get through it.
So with that, one of the things that I commonly hear is what are some of the standards, right? And we talked about the standards in our last conversation, but we should talk about those standards again, just to kind of frame the approachability of this. And you all worked with the Vermont Mountain Bike Association as well to come up with some videos and some standards. But I believe, and I could be wrong, so correct me if I am, that a lot of this is rooted in the CASA standards that came out of the Kootenai Adaptive Sports Association, I believe it is. Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement, but I also think too, again, this is just my personal opinion, right? Like I think the word standards is almost too much, right? I think it's like guidelines and best practices, right? This isn't a paint by numbers thing, and obviously Kootenai does have some of that on there as guidelines, but if you just went by paint by numbers, you would make a good trail even for a two-wheeled rider and for adaptive rider, right? And I think that's kind of the nuance behind it. So we have some guidelines that we've come out with in doing it, but a lot of it just comes down to the nuance of kind of our bikes and what we are, and trying to create kind of impressions around that. And we were successful in making a 3-part YouTube series to kind of go along to Burns, can talk about it more too, on the education side of what does this look like if you want to start doing this? And it's simplest terms, right? If you break it down, what are we looking for? And it's not just well, you have to make this corner this high and this length, or this so much amount of side slope and this much amount of elevation gain, right? It's not a paint by numbers game. It's that's how you're going to mess it up actually. So it's a great question.
When we started building the driving range, we did look at the CASA standards, and we honestly did not know how to engage with them. We were, and still are, a tiny trail club with a very small annual budget, without any idea how to measure radii and slope or all that stuff. We've been basically building rake and ride trails, and that's all we had done. So we kind of felt there wasn't information out there that was relevant to us, and that was easier for volunteers to understand, as Greg said. So that's why we made that 3-part YouTube series with VIMBA and with Vermont Adaptive. And I fully agree with Greg, standard is not the right word. Guideline is what we're shooting for. And I don't know if I've even told Greg this yet, but I'm actually working with IMBA and the BLM to come up with, I'm actually writing the guidelines for adaptive trail building for IMBA BLM, which hopefully will become a launch pad that we can all use to evolve what we're doing and to eventually come to consensus. The first version, I don't expect, will have collaboration, but not consensus. It's a short-term project that was already in process when I took it over. And I'm really excited though, because it's gonna give a universal, it's going to give everyone a place to kind of start with, what are some ways that we could approach signage, and what's the recommendation? What are the things that we should be thinking about when we're considering climbing trails, descending trails, et cetera? And what is the recommendation? And obviously with a BLM, they work with certain, constraints and parameters, and hopefully we'll be able to get some information in there as well that will be relevant to a broader audience, or that maybe at some time we could expand that project to be more relevant to grassroots trail clubs and others.
Yeah, I think CASA kind of got it started with some sort of framework, and it's people can agree with everything of it. I think it's just good. It's good. It was good to start someplace and engage them or not. It was just here's a start from a trail builder standpoint, a trail builder look at this, but for everyone else, right? It's it's still it's a more nuanced game, right? And it's the biggest thing is always just getting out with adaptive riders in your community and look at the bikes and riding with them, because again, trail builders don't sit there, measuring the radii and doing all that stuff for other normal trail, right? It's how you ride their bike. So getting the trail builders on bikes, adaptive bikes, and then also just being on trail adaptive bikes is what really is the key and start. And then the YouTube series just kind of gives you those pointers what to look for and where to go. And I think again, it also doesn't have to be right. It's better to ride a trail that's maybe kind of crappy than it is not to be able to ride a trail at all, right? And so as long as the conversation's out there and people are trying to make this work, that's all that matters. It's just giving you more places to ride and try and see what works. And again, everywhere you go is different. The terrain is different. That's the beauty of mountain biking. There's so much character to land and what you want to ride, and it's all relative to what people want to do. So it's just like Burns' point, like figure it out, like go out there and kind of figure it out, and it's there. And I think the momentum and movement is there, and it's fun to see all these different, adaptive programs that I know that are like really pushing hard on this. And the film has been like a huge thing to like get them over the hump, get them over the edge. So more mainstream organizations want to be involved and make those decisions. So great.
Well, I'm glad you all made the paint by numbers analogy and corrected me on standards to guidelines. And the reason why I say that is because every trail builder listening to this is probably rejoicing in the fact that they can actually still keep their creative juices flowing instead of just being told to like put this robotic thing together.
Yeah, if you don't, you're like, adaptive building is just, a lot of it is just good trail building. Like almost all of it is just good trail building. People are always like, well, what about jumps? Like, how do you build like tabletops for adaptive riders? And it's like, well, you build them well. Like you think about the approach, you build the approach really well. You don't have like super slopey lips. You have good sight lines. Like a lot of it is just good trail building. And I wanted to add one other thing to what Greg said, or maybe even just summarize it, or really to go back to your original question. You need three things to build adaptive trails. You need a strong trail club. Like you need a trail club that is going to not just build the trails, but maintain the trails. You need an adaptive sports organization that is going to have some adaptive bikes that maybe the trail builders can borrow, that adaptive athletes can try and figure out what works for their bodies, that can teach adaptive athletes how to ride and be adaptive athletes. And then you need the people who want to come ride it. And those people are going to be adaptive athletes and really all riders. Because when you're building adaptive trails, like I just want everyone to remember, we're building trails that are fun for everyone. We're not building trails that are exclusively for adaptive riders that are going to segregate adaptive riders somehow from everybody else. We're building a place where community can happen and where everyone can ride together.
Just want the same experience as everyone else is having.
For sure. And I'm glad you threw out the jumps as an example, because that, generally speaking, has been evolving as well. Because regular mountain bikes have gotten longer, lower, and slacker, we'll say, right? And so the way jumps function with people that bring normal bikes to trails is different than what it was 10 years ago or 15 years ago when people were on 26-inch wheels or 20-inch BMX bikes. And that's something that I've personally pushed on within the industry of like, hey, we need to evolve the way these jumps function, and they do need to be longer and they do need to be built better, because the people showing up.
You're nose diving now.
What's that?
You're nose diving now.
For sure.
And that's what our bikes do, right? So it's actually a bit similar. It's the same like geometry. Yeah. Like a longer bike, right? It's going to send you in a weird place.
If your front end of your bike is off the lip and your back end hasn't even gotten on the transition, especially for someone that doesn't have a lot of experience, that's an issue.
Mm-hmm. Such a good point, Josh. Yeah. But it's cool though. Like that same evolution though is like evolving with like what's going on with our bikes when we go off jumps too, like what's happening. Right. And so, right, some of these jumps have a bigger lip. It's contoured. It's sending you forward instead of like having a more table style lip with a more rounded finish to, bring your bike around and have safer landings for everybody too. So exactly.
So when we got into the call, in fact, we were talking about this before I hit record. Let's talk about future screenings. Because Berne, you went off on not really a tangent, but like you just like were ripping with where this thing is going.
There's so many screenings coming up, and you can see the list at bestdayever.mov. We just got into the Kathmandu Film Festival and the film festival in Tokyo. We are headed to 5 Point Film Festival this coming week in Carbondale, Colorado. We've been looking forward to this one for a really long time. And then we're headed to Telluride Mountain Film in Telluride, Colorado in May. That's another one we've really been looking forward to. Kelly Brush Foundation has a dozen screenings that they're doing everywhere from Boston to Utah to California.
New York.
And Richmond Mountain Trails, Best Day Ever is screening the movie. We're on a tour with Vermont Public right now through the state of Vermont. We are doing, a bunch of different trail clubs are doing screenings out in Seattle, I can't even remember all the places. I mean, there's probably 40 or 50 screenings happening right now, but it's really cool. Trail clubs have been licensing this movie to raise money, to raise awareness. again, land managers have reached out to show this film to their staff so that people can just learn more about adaptive trails. Like, there's so many different groups that are taking something away from this. So please, if anyone is interested in seeing this movie or in sharing this movie with your community, just reach out to Let's Ride at bestdayever.mov, and that'll come to me and we can get it sorted out.
Please do.
I was just about to ask, if somebody is listening to this and they didn't know that they could reach out to you, what does that look like on their end? But you just said it.
There you go. Yeah. And when it's a bigger screening, we do ask for a screening fee because that's what helps us keep this movie in circulation. We do have a private screening link that's available by request, and it's $9.99 or something, and you can watch the movie at home with your family.
Oh, perfect. I'm going to have to talk to the leadership at my company about that. Because everyone needs to see this thing, from the builders to the designers to the planners. Like, it's a super powerful film.
2 weeks ago, I got to be the keynote speaker at the SORBA conference, and that was such a powerful experience because we had all of the mountain bike leaders from 8 states in the same room. And it, SORBA used Best Day Ever to kick off their conference. And when trail builders get to see this movie, especially in that context, it changes the conversation a little bit. It cracks people open in a way that they didn't quite expect. And yeah, it just leads to super interesting conversations. And it was so rewarding to be able to get to answer questions for a room full of leaders in mountain biking, trail builders, people who are making decisions about how to build trails. It was a really fantastic experience.
Funny side note, I was able to mountain bike with Philip Darden 2 weeks before SORBA, or the SORBA spring summit, because they always have one in the spring and the fall, because I was on a work trip and happened to just detour into Tennessee, knowing that I could, get a day of riding in with Phil. So that's awesome that you made it to the SORBA summit.
Yeah. Philip was the one who invited me, and it was great.
Yeah. And I know there's a lot of chapters in SORBA that have been looking at this. And I think, maybe the one that comes to mind first is Bump, which is Birmingham Urban Mountain Paddlers or whatever it is.
Bump has some really great trails. They have one of their trail networks has the largest the largest handicap parking lot I've ever seen. I've never seen more handicap spaces in a parking lot ever. There's some activity happening in Chattanooga. We heard a rumor that the mayor proclaimed that the trails in downtown Chattanooga will all be made adaptive friendly after watching Best Day Ever. I have not confirmed that. But again, I think hopefully Best Day Ever just makes people think about what they can do in their own communities, makes people think about what they are doing in their own trail networks, and is just kind of like, is a little bug in someone's ear to maybe consider trying something different.
Well, and I think I could be wrong, but I'm fairly certain IMBA brought in at least Joe Stone and maybe a couple other adaptive riders to ride Walden's Ridge in Chattanooga and give, their input on any changes that needed to happen. And I think that what came out of it was pretty minimal.
Often the modifications, and Vimba's been doing a ton of this. Greg has been really intimately involved with trail assessments and retrofits. It's kind of something that we've really been very focused on in Vermont and are sharing with other folks. But there are so many trails out there that they're just small changes that could be made to those trails to make them adaptive accessible. A lot of times it's not expensive. Sometimes it's a boulder that somebody rolled in front of the entrance of the trail network to keep ATVs out. Sometimes it's a single tree that creates a pinch point. But what we're finding is there's a lot of trails that if you go ride them with an adaptive rider, if you ride them with the land manager, the adaptive rider, like somebody to take notes and take photos, and then you go back and look at that, they can be made accessible for more people without a big investment. And to be fair, there's some that should not be made adaptive because it would either change the character of the trail too much or because it would be too expensive.
Or you're making huge pro line stuff. Like that just kind of is what it is. Like, right. That just, some stuff just doesn't work. Right. And it's just not going to, it's totally fine. But again, a lot of a lot of the new trails, like what Chattanooga is building, if it's machine built, that's literally more than half the battle, I think, because like width is always kind of the biggest thing. And the way people are building trails now, like because they're machine built, it changes kind of like the nature of how the trail is made, right? And so I think that is more successful for how like our bikes ride and what it is. So having more machine built trails just happens to really make it easier for us to ride the trails and again to the point of being where it's like minimal. We've made more minimal amount of change that actually has to happen.
Greg, I've seen you ride plenty of non-machine built trails, like totally old school trails that also went and that I would have had no idea that you would have been able to ride.
But I mean, a lot of things work, but I think point being like the new, like when people are building new trails now, they're like using machine. That's like, it makes a world of difference too when you're starting out that way. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of hand built trails that, if it's down the fall line, like there's not much bench cut. If it goes down the fall line, it's just at that point, it's just how steep is too steep for you.
Well, and that's a point worth mentioning again and again and again, because so many times when you bring up the word adaptive, it gets, it coincides with somebody also thinking that it's got to be flatter, or more accommodating in a way that they think is just easier. And that's the exact opposite of what you're looking for.
Yeah. So is the biggest thing. I think it's like that always misconception of like everything's again, like we're just changing these trails, right, to make it easier or like looking at it that way. And again, like to Berne's point before, it's like, like we're making this so everyone can ride the same trail and have the same experiences. So it's not like we're segregating ourselves from anybody else. We're actually trying to make this better for everyone, right? And it's all relative, but like for the same standpoint, though, like most people want like what we're actually suggesting we change. So it's funny that way. So like that, just kind of turning that narrative around and flipping that on its head is massive. And again, I think I can say it till I'm blue in the face, but for whatever reason, like the movie really like is what sells it, right? And I think I always laugh at this stuff where like we preach him and I talk about this stuff all the time, and then it's kind of nice to be like, well, you know what? Just we actually have a movie about this now. You can look at and see and use that, and then be like, you can't really say anything against it then.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just because you're injured doesn't mean you don't want progression anymore.
Yeah.
Like who doesn't want to get to be a better rider, right? Who doesn't want to be able to try new things? And I forget if we mentioned this, like one of the things with adaptive trails that I hadn't thought about, but it makes it so much better for kids who are looking at things from a lower perspective, right? So there's so many little rippers out there these days, and adaptive trails just let them be even better riders because they can see what's coming, minimize their crashing, and and like hopefully just have a great time.
Better sightlines.
Better sightlines.
And that's better for everybody, especially in shared use or multi-use trails, and in areas that have a lot, that have a pretty high density of just users in general, regardless of the use type, right? Trail runners, hikers, everybody, right? So before we end this one, I do want to get into a little bit of geek side talk, because those that are like really into the mountain bike world know that Sea Otter is happening this week. And
huge event.
Yeah. And as much as I love trails, I also love equipment. And when I was looking through some of the latest photos that have came out of Sea Otter just earlier today, I noticed that Bowhead has a new RX. Do you know anything about that specifically? And more generally, maybe you could talk about the evolution of adaptive mountain bikes.
Yeah, I think so. So Bowhead's at Sea Otter. They have a huge booth showcasing like the bikes that they have and what's going out there, and they have a bunch of different models. And so when Josh talking about the Bow RX, it's actually a fully pedaled version of the bike, and it has what makes that RX different. It has the new basic kind of Bosch motor system in it. So I think Bosch has come out with a new basic kind of motor system, and what's cool is it keeps it kind of in that e-bike class that's like good for everyone that works there. It's like 250 watt motor, right? So it kind of falls in that range of what an e-bike is for an able-bodied person too. And so I think just they took the whole new Bosch motor system and integrated that with an integrated face into the bike itself. So it's not kind of set the kiosk that you control everything on is a bit separate, or it could fall off or could damage. It's now kind of built into the frame of the bike. And then I think with their new motor that's integrated there, so I think it's got like more battery, longer stuff. It just as again, crazy. Every year, like you see these e-bikes just changing so much and so fast, and that's what's happening on our end too, where it's just making bikes more capable and having that. But also, it's great to have a huge adaptive manufacturer of bikes like at an event like Sea Otter, where like we're represented. And again, it all kind of comes down to like normalizing outdoor recreation for everyone, and it shouldn't be weird or odd that like that Bowhead is there. Like it's like I'm so pumped that they're there, and everyone should go by the booth and check it out, and understand it. And they're doing some like a fun watch challenge too, so you can get on the bikes and challenge yourself to see what it's like being in an adaptive bike and what it feels like. But it's just nice to have like to be included in the mainstream side of this. That's what we want at the end of the day. It's like not just right. It's not even just the trails. It's the actual like festivals and being a part of that. Like that's the experience we want to be able to have. And so just creating that normalization and being there and having that and having new bikes that are available for the public to use is massive, right? And the technology is going to keep changing. It's only going to get better for us. So always excited for what the future holds and whatever bikes I can get my hands on to ride as well.
And I totally forgot to mention, best day ever is screening at Sea Otter at the campout. It's also looking promising for screening at Leadville. And we will be screening at Switchback in New Orleans as well, which is another big outdoor trade show.
Nice. That's incredible, man. Like reflecting on again, going back to the beginning of this conversation, reflecting on, where you're just getting ready to leave to go start the tour in October. And now like all of this has happened. It's just so great to see the amount of traction, pun intended, that this has really gotten.
When I was pitching this movie and trying to raise money for it, and I had nothing. I had nothing to show. I had no trailer. I was just like, hey, everybody, like, I'm going to make this movie. It's going to win a ton of awards. Like, I'm sure it's going to win lots of awards, and it's going to change culture, and it's going to like do all this stuff. And I was like trying to like think back on that. Like I believed it would, but I literally had nothing behind me to prove or to even suggest that it could be successful. And then we were so lucky to have Javi Fernandez from Topspin Studios come out and help us make a trailer. And then at least we could like show a little bit of what we were doing. But like, it's unbelievable that we actually got this thing done. And it's so cool that it's actually creating change that I think Greg and I both hoped it would, but just had no idea what we were doing or if we could actually get there.
Yeah, it's like, right, this is like, well, my job is like what I do for a job anyway, right? And like I said, to that point of like, you just sometimes you don't realize the impact you can have or you want to be having. And so again, to Brent's point, I think like we all hope like, right, this would happen, but also too like this is super scary side of like, does this movie like live outside of Vermont, right? Like it's cool what we did here in Vermont and showcase that, and there it is, and here it is, like for instance, it's like in Kathmandu, Nepal, like being played. It's in Macedonia, right? It's like it's winning best film in Chile, right? And I'm going to Spain and England showcasing this, and it's cool because it's like I love what I do so much, and so it's just great to be able to have a bit of a platform, now to talk about that more and have that and create that difference. And I said I'm just so much more motivated. I mean, I'm already motivated always anyway, but like I just excited for so much more, and I just couldn't be happier. And this will be the craziest thing that probably happens ever in my life, and I'm just trying to soak it in every time. And Allie too, and Berne, it's just there's nothing cooler than this. And
I just am so grateful that Greg and Allie were willing to just be trusting of me and of Ben and to be so open and to share such intimate details of their lives, because that I think is what, and also to Greg's family and Greg's friends and like the whole community, like that's what made this film. When it comes back to it, it's all the community. And again, I just feel so humbled and appreciative of everyone who's been a part of this journey, because it's not my success. It's not Greg's success. It's really like the success of the entire community. And that is a big community. And that community is what made all this stuff happen. Yeah, exactly why I just wish like the community could feel like that feeling that we feel when, we get those awards. And I think it's cool too. Like a lot of times too, I think, when we're like, if people say like, hey, like we're here, like for the screening, that it kind of changes like what the audience might see or feel because, those people are here. But like, it's so cool. Like Josh, to your point, to hear that, like, Berne and I were, or Allie weren't at your screening and what you felt and shared. And it's like, it's so amazing to even hear those anecdotes of like, it's happening, not because like we're actually there. It really is happening, right? And that's still hard to wrap my brain around. Like you can tell me it 100 times, and it's still going to be hard for me to comprehend that. But it's like it's the best thing to hear, and I'm just so happy
the traction it's getting and the impact it's truly having.
I want to be at all the screenings. I wish I could be at all the screenings.
Oh, yeah.
You don't even know where all the screenings are happening. But like, one thing that I don't think we mentioned, like we talked about how this is having an impact with trail builders and land managers, but every single screening I've been at, including the one this morning at Champlain Valley Union High School, somebody in the audience, and sometimes it's 20 people in the audience, but somebody in the audience comes up and basically just tells us that we changed their life. Like when I was in Boulder last weekend at the Boulder International Film Festival, this young woman raised her hand during the Q&A and she was just in tears and said, I never knew this was an option for me. And this is actually an activity that I can do with my disability. Like, this is going to change my life. And then we're literally right then able to connect her with the adaptive sports organization that was right there. There's this guy, Topher Downham, who's a real leader in the community around adaptive biking in Boulder, Colorado. And they made a plan to go riding right then. And that to me, and that's happened since our very first film festival. Like, that happened at Heartland, and it has happened every single place that I've personally been able to attend a screening. And that is one of the most powerful things that I've experienced.
There's nothing better because the Kelly Brush Foundation is like what we do. And so like to create more of those moments every time we're out there, it's just like, it's the biggest yes and the biggest, everything is just so important. And again, I think I'm just thankful that, again, to have this opportunity and put people where they need to be. So it's so cool. And again, Josh, thank you for having us back on here.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, like I said before, it shouldn't be baffling to me, but like when you literally get standing ovations for a film where like you two are not there, but they're clapping like you are literally there in front of them. It is and I honestly think that's signals to what outdoor recreation means to my community. Like, everyone is super pumped about it just in general, and so when people really participate in that kind of stuff instead of just standing up and moving on, man, it's just so awesome to see.
Love it. I love it.
With that, do you have any closing comments before we wrap this one up? And we can go with you first, Greg.
Yeah, I think I always just want to thank our community, like the adaptive community, because I love this community more than anything. And I love them. I just want to thank them for like existing and being amazing and giving me the opportunity to like help be a part of that and build this. And I just want to keep doing more for them. So I just want to thank our adaptive community for just being amazing, and just anything I can do to help that community and be more a part of it and grow it. I'm here. That's what I want.
Thank you. Berne?
Yeah. Reach out. Let us know how we can help. Reach out to me, reach out to Greg. You can reach out again through bestdayever.mov. You can find us online on Instagram. Let us know how we can help. Like, we are happy to offer advice, moral support, I don't know, pro tips, whatever we can. And I look forward to checking in again once those IMBA BLM adaptive guidelines get a little further down the road.
Yeah, we will need to check back in then. That's another thing that I typically do with this podcast is when IMBA comes out with new stuff, I always, like to highlight what they're doing. For example, they just recently did their Trail Town designation. We've had a couple shows on that initiative. And so we will definitely, want to connect again to, really kind of talk about that process and what that, looks like in practice, right?
Absolutely.
So thank you two very much. I really appreciate y'all taking the time to come on the show again. It's an honor to have you two and to be able to meet you two. And hopefully I can figure out a way to get myself over to the driving range.
Please come ride with us.
Please, yeah. Anytime.
And it is such a treat to be on your show, Josh. Thank you. We really just so appreciate your interest and your support.
Yeah. Honor to have you. And just thanks again for everybody taking the time to go see the film.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for listening. If you like what you have heard, please take the time to share these shows with others. Sharing these shows will help create awareness of both the guests who have taken the time to be on the show and the podcast series itself. Also, if you're new to the Trail Effect Podcast, check out our ever-expanding library of episodes. If you listen to the Trail Effect Podcast on Apple or Spotify, please don't forget to leave a rating and review, as this is one of the best ways to show our support for the Trail Effect Podcast. For additional ways to help support the Trail Effect Podcast, check out the affiliate links tab at the Trail Effect website, where you'll find links to Kettle Mountain apparel and Trail One components. By using the affiliate links found at www.traileffectpodcast.com, a small commission will come back to the podcast, which will help keep this thing going. This podcast has been edited and produced by Evolution Trail Services. Thank you again for listening.